Next, we're called to reflect Christ's light in the world. Look at verse 20. Look what it says. The mystery of the 7 stars you saw in my right hand and the 7 golden lampstands. The 7 stars are the angelos, the messengers, actually they're the pastor elders of the 7 churches. And the 7 lampstands which you saw are the churches. So what's our purpose as a church? To be a lamp in an ever-darkening world. Well, what's our problem? Well, the book of Revelation tells us the 7 greatest problems every believer is going to have in the last days. And what are they? Well, we could be like Ephesus. We could be coasting and not pursuing Christ. Or we could be like Smyrna. We could be fearing our persecution. Or we could be like Pergamos, desensitized by sin. Or like Thyatira, enslaved. Or like Sardis, acting like a lost person. Or like Philadelphia. Remember he said, you're of little strength, but go through that open door. When I sat there at that Peruvian hair cutter, I had a choice. Did you know all the other people in the barber chairs were listening to me? They all stopped talking when she said, you know God? It got quiet. And I could have said, taper block around the ears, please, and not walk through the open door. Or we could be like Laodicea, distracted. Well, just before we go, I have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Let me just tell you one quick story. I got an email, I think it was maybe a year ago, and this person said, you don't know me, I live in London. They said, I'm probably your age because I've seen you. I thought, what a strange email to get. Someone in London has seen me. She said, I went to every concert. She said, starting with the Beatles when they launched in '64, or whatever year it was. And she said, and the Rolling Stones and Queen, and she just blah, blah, blah. She said, I've been to every concert. And she says, and I went there to get stoned, to get drunk, to get high, and she said to get, well, I don't know if you're supposed to use all these words here, but to get laid. She said, I was going there for find a guy and spend the weekend with him and drug and drink and sex and everything. And she says, and then at the end I would buy the album, and she says, I had every album of every concert in England that I'd been to with the date on it, and she says, I had them, the album cover on my wall. That was my decor in my house. I thought, what an interesting note to get from someone. So now I've got a tour of somebody's house in London. She said, 6 months ago, I was riding home from a concert. She said, I'm in my 60s. And she said, boy, you don't get as buzzed anymore. She said, in fact, you don't move as fast and you stay away from a lot of that stuff. She said, but I went to another concert hoping to have a buzz. And she said, and I was on my way home riding the subway to my apartment, and she said, I started thinking, you know what, you're old and you're sick and you're hopeless. And so she said, I typed into Google, hope. Just the word hope. And she said, all of a sudden, she said, I turned it and I put in my earbuds, and she said, you were talking. She said, you were talking to a musical concert group. And she said, it was really short. She said, it was just a few minutes. And I thought, I'm going to watch this. So she said, I was watching it like this on the tube. And she said, you told all this. And then you said, bow your head. So she said, I was just sitting. I was really in it. So she said, I bowed my head. And then I said, God is not far from anyone. If you grope, he's within an arm's length of you. Just reach out to him. So she said, I went like this. On the subway in London. You know what? If I saw someone in a seat in front of me going with their head down, I would have probably moved back, a couple seats, wonder, what are they doing? She said, I reached out to God. She said, you know why I'm writing to you? She said, my life has utterly changed in the last 6 months. She said, I just came up from the bin, she called it, the dumpster. She said, I took all of my things down from the wall. She said, I don't want to remember that sin anymore. She says, I'm watching all the classes you have online. She says, and I found a church and I'm getting people to come to Christ. Did you know you're surrounded by people like that every day? And all we have to do is be a lamp for them.